Okay, I'm going to start this project from the beginning and we'll just see what happens. It's going to be pretty brief, I hope. We'll explain the difficulties as we go. So what we're looking at is an Aristocraft F1A, and I've got a B section sitting over on the other counter. Not enough room on my workbench as usual. This is again an Aristocraft model, and it has a plug-and-play socket, but the owner really would like to consolidate around a RailPro environment. It's off. I've loosed up the smoke generator. The other thing that's tedious or difficult in the in the RailPro environment is they really won't sell you a nice little smoke control board. And I'm not 100% certain I can make the one from Revolution work with a RailPro decoder. I tried it, but with a much beefier smoke generator. Of course, that just broke everything, and so I kind of just leapt on the assumption that it doesn't work overall, but I don't know that for a fact. I might have another method. Of course, it's just a plain old switch someplace as well, so we'll address that. Okay, like I said, not as much video here, so I'm going to just break this thing open. You don't get to watch. Sorry about that. So I'm really limited to this space right here. Not unlike jamming stuff into the tender of a steam locomotive, so it'll be exciting to see what happens. But the next step is super easy because there's absolutely nothing of use here, so we're just going to strip every piece of wiring thing you can see away. And we'll come back after that. They're incandescent bulbs that need to run off a battery voltage to be even close to effective. I'm remiss to replace these with an LED, which usually leads to lots of problems. Like, first of all, these are drawing about 100 mA. That's the cab light, the marker lights, and the headlights all on. Well, if I was going to put a really bright LED in this thing, it would be 20 mA at a minimum, and then it would take a couple of 20 mA LEDs to point sideways into the number plate thing, which I would totally hack up. May still do that, we'll see. And another 20 mA going into the cab light, because the cab light wants a pretty bright one in there to be effective. Like, you can't even see. I mean, there's a light on up in there, but you can't see it. Sort of lights it up in there, but just barely. So we'll see. I'm still waffling about that. So, but otherwise we have whoosh, removed everything in the interior and are ready to start actually doing some trial placing. So we're gonna do that next. Okay, so the entire front area here is taken up by the cab modeling. We've got this giant diesel motor part that's visible through screen and lit. We'll get to that lighting in a minute. It's hollow underneath and has room for the harness, which is handy because most of our big wire is going to come right out of that connector, which I can create the harness in here and kind of tuck it out of the way. Some light driving wires will be coming from this to some plugs so we can service it. And just handily, the back of the train included this lovely panel with 3 minimally labeled switches that'll work really good to A, turn the smoke on and off, and we're back and we're done. We're essentially have everything installed. I didn't do a lot of in-between shots here. We talked about rough placement and that sort of thing. The decoder is sitting on my favorite building material, a couple Legos, which makes it eminently removable and serviceable. The battery's Velcroed in. There was in the back of the upper shell is a bank of switches, and I thought, oh, I'll leverage those switches for the power. And I just couldn't quite figure out how to do it neatly and cleanly, and so I just gave up. So what there is there's a little toggle switch directly underneath the chassis right here. Push it and it turns off, pull it, and it turns on. This locomotive has no actual real power indicator anywhere on it. Oops. So you got to do something like turn on the cab lights, which also run the running boards. I stuck with the original incandescent bulbs. I think they're adequate. We'll see. There's a headlight that works, and there's engine compartment lighting, which is pretty cool. You're supposed to be able to look inside this model and see the engine compartment. And oh yeah, baby.
on the test rollers, you really can't see much going on. Yeah, but it's going. Let's see, let's turn it on. And fire up the engine.
So the first half went extremely smoothly. You know, the biggest quandary I had was some last second, how do I route the main harness and power switch and stuff like that. So we're going to treat this one exactly the same. This is just from glancing at it from the outside is a little bit different. There's no speaker. Is that in my included my kit of stuff there in front? And I got a little pile. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Speaker. A little pile of stuff. We're going to install this in the front. I should have a lot more latitude because there's no cab area in this. So the area that was taken up by the cab and the FA unit, I can use for battery, and that leaves me a lot more room for the decoder back in the back half in the same kind of position. We'll still be able to see inside. The only lights on this model are the engine compartment lights, and so we'll set those up to be controlled by a button. And yeah, hopefully this will be when we're done. Will be the first time I've used RailPro in a consist, and I'm very excited because they claim to be very good at it, and all evidence supports that. So I'm a little looking forward to trying it myself. Okay, more as we get going. Time to open this baby up. So the B unit is somewhat different. The first obvious difference is this has more sophisticated smoke control than the A unit, which makes me think these are not actual matching units originally. Watch this. That's pretty cool. I don't know if that shows up well in the video, but the smoke generator comes right out. The smoke generator has a hole in the bottom of it and can make smoke come out this hole here through. Let's just set this aside. Flip it over. Through this weird plumbing going on in the bottom, so there's another fan down in here. So I'll be interested in seeing that work, because now the fan switch makes more sense because it has smoke. Nope, it's still just a two-way switch. Okay, there. This is a very nice switch panel. It just slides in and out, and we abandoned almost all the switches on the A unit except for the smoke switch. Same thing applies to both of these. This says smoke and it says F, off, R, front, rear, and off, which would imply a three-position switch, but it only goes two ways. The same on the A unit. I'm not sure I know what to make about that, except it's clearly wired up to blow some smoke out of both deals. So we'll see how that works. We're just going to wire it up per default. We're going to leave this switch in place to turn it on when it's in the smoke position, and off everywhere else. And I think that's how it actually really works. Shouldn't be any problems here doing this exactly like the other one with the power switch hidden down underneath here. And yeah, we'll get this thing all fired up. Oh, and the battery can sit up here. Lots of room for battery. We got tons of room for battery. That's awesome. So yeah. I'm really sorry. I had some social people over. I had a concert to go to and a time schedule to keep, and I simply didn't film the rest of this, putting this model together. Suffice it to say that you know, I added a speaker. There was no speaker. We installed the RailPro decoder. It went in just fine. There was more room than I anticipated, but it was still kind of a challenge to jam everything in there. At issue was the size of the battery, which is pretty big. These are going to run a good long time, and the speaker magnet interfering with each other. Plus, this up in here, there was a bunch of plumbing for this smoke detector or smoke arrangement. The model works just fine and sounds great. I'll turn it on, and let's just see here. We'll turn it on. I keep saying this. We'll turn it on. Turn it off again, and then it takes a while. And the top switch runs the smoke detector or smoke generators. And when you turn it on, it runs a fan up here and heats up the element and blows air out of that. So there's smoke coming out of everywhere here, except there's no fluid in it, but it's there and hooked up. So I'll leave putting fluid into the end user. It makes a mess, and you don't want to transport it that way. Okay, let's get them out on the track and try synchronizing them and see what happens. This is very, very exciting.